Voting Theory Class 9 Video 2. In this video we're going to talk about some more fairness principles, so let's go straight to the definitions. The first fairness principle I want to talk about is something called sovereign, or sovereignty. Okay? We say that a voting system has sovereignty if every social order can be produced with the right voter profile. So the general idea of sovereignty is you want every possible outcome to be possible. Okay? You don't want a voting system where it's somehow like inherently impossible for one alternative to win. You want it so that any possible outcome could occur with the right set of voting profiles, with the right voter profile. Okay? Very related to this is the notion of unanimity. Okay? This is the second fairness principle I want to talk about in this video. So we say that a voting system has unanimity if whenever every voter votes in the exact same way, then that is the outcome of the election. And this is it's not much to ask for when you're asking for a fair election, right? I mean, imagine what this is actually saying. It's saying if literally everyone voted in exactly the same way, then that should be the outcome of the election. Okay, and this is what it means for a voting system to satisfy the unanimous criteria or to satisfy the unanimity criteria. If everyone votes in exactly the same way, then that's the outcome of the election. Okay, and notice that if your voting system has unanimity, then it also has sovereignty as well. Okay, sovereignty is even weaker than unanimity. One thing I quickly want to note is that most of the voting systems that we've been speaking about so far satisfy the unanimity fairness principle, but not all of them. So for example, if we consider an agenda like this, okay, and suppose that everyone votes A, B, C, D. In particular, everyone wants B in second place. Okay. Well, what would be the outcome of the agenda? A would beat B, C goes through, A would beat C, D goes through, and then A wins. So the outcome of the agenda would be A, D, C, B. B in last place. Okay. So even though everyone agrees that B should be in second place, the agenda would still put B in last place. Okay, so the agenda voting system is not unanimous, or it does not have unanimity. So does not satisfy unanimity. Okay, and the reason is because depending on how the agenda is drawn up, it's literally impossible for some things to come in certain places. Like with this agenda here, it's literally impossible to have A and B in first and second place because one of them has to get knocked out in the very first round. Okay, let's move on to the next fairness principle. Again, this one's similar to unanimity, it's just a bit stronger. So we say that a voting system has the majority criterion if whenever one alternative is ranked first by the majority, and majority means more than 50%, okay, of the voters, then that alternative must come first. So this is a stronger thing to ask for than unanimity. Unanimity, you ask that if everyone rates an alternative in first place, then that alternative has to come in first place. But the majority criterion just says if a majority of voters rank an alternative in first place, then that alternative must come in first place. Okay, so it's a harder thing to satisfy. So let's look at the theorem. Well, this theorem tells you that plurality, the two-round runoff, and the instant runoff all satisfy the majority criterion. Okay. And I'm not going to go into details of a proof, but I think it's believable why this would be true. I mean, if more than 50% of the voters in the plurality rank an alternative in first place, then sort of no other alternative could have more first place votes. You've already got more than 50% of the votes. And it's the same sort of argument with the 2-round runoff and the instant runoff. Okay? If one alternative has more than 50% of the votes, even if all the other alternatives pool their votes together for one other alternative, that can't be more than 50%. Because more than 50% is already going to the one alternative we spoke about just now. So these three voting systems all satisfy the majority criterion. Okay? Not every voting system that we spoke about satisfies the majority criterion. For example, if we look at this voting system right here, if we look at this voting profile, and the voting system is the border, okay? Then let's calculate who would win. So 0 points, 1 points, 2 points. A would get 55 times 2, which is 110. B would get 35 times 2 plus 55 plus 10 times 1, which is 70 plus 65, which is 135. And finally, C would get 10 times 2 plus 35 times 1, which is 20 plus 70, which is 90. So the social ranking would be something like B beats A beats C. But notice that A actually has the majority of the votes, right? If you add up all these votes, 55 plus 35 plus 10, that equals 100. And A got 55 of them, so that means A got 55% of top preference votes. So A got a majority of top preference votes, but A still didn't win. So what does this mean? So the border voting system does not satisfy the fairness principle of majority. Okay, the border voting system does not satisfy the fairness principle majority. I just realized I made an arithmetic error right here. So when I was working out the number of points for C, it's 10 times 2 plus 35 times 1, which is 20 plus 35, which is 55. It doesn't change the answer. The answer is still the exact same thing, but I should point this out anyway. Arithmetic is difficult for me. Okay, that's the end of this example, and that's the end of this video.